So we are streaming live on YouTube. Don Brown has gotten here on time. Yay! We'll get started momentarily. We'll start with 3 prostrations. Shriye Namo Sushriye Namo Uttama Shriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye Namo Sushriye Namo Uttama Shriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye Namo Sushriye Namo Uttama Shriye Soha. It's a multiplying mantra to multiply merit as you're doing prostrations. Don, do you want to start with prayers this morning?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the prayers. But you know how, I do. I don't like to launch into prayers without saying a word about it, about particularly the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. So again, repetition. Can't have enough. But some of you have heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. Before we do refuge and bodhicitta prayer, we have to think what did they mean? What's the attitude we need to bring to saying these prayers so that we can get the result that we want? And so the first attitude is one of fear. Shouldn't use that word, right? It's actually, that's the word in the text, but it's often translated as dread, and classically it's dread of being reborn in the 3 lower realms, which most of us have no concept of what that means. But the causes of being reborn in the 3 lower realms are, in the animal realm, it's ignorance, the 3 joyless realms, sometimes called. Animal realm is ignorance. The hungry ghost realm is miserliness, clinging, attachment, desire, so forth, stinginess. And then the hell realm is any really heavy negative action, but generally we think of as anger being the motivation for the heaviest of negative actions. So the three poisonous states of mind, and of course there are 84,000 delusions, so there's a lot of poison out there, but those are the main ones, are the cause to being reborn in these joyless realms. And so at least, we should have some sincere feeling of like dread of performing actions motivated by these harmful delusions, and the consequences of that. It's going to be bad. I mean, our life, we know, samsaric existence is really problematic. As the Buddha said, all worldlings are deluded or deranged, or whatever you want to say. But so, we need to have some recognition that we can't even count to 10 breaths without getting lost. Our mind is so wild. And we have many challenges to face in this life, and we should have a healthy sense of dread that I don't want the consequences of actions motivated by these destructive mind states. I dread the consequences of that. I don't want it. So, that's part of the motivation for taking refuge. The other one is faith, or again, translated as confidence in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and compassion. But again, what does that mean? The Buddhas, we're taking refuge in the enlightened beings that have come before, Shakyamuni Buddha, and all the teachers that have come before. Since that time, but also our Buddha potential. So we're taking refuge in our Buddha potential. We have that potential to realize state of full enlightenment. So it's important that we acknowledge our own potential. And we're taking refuge in the Dharma, the realizations, but our own potential to realize those, to have those realizations in our mind. And then the Sangha, the spiritual community, technically those who realize emptiness, but also our own potential to be helpers along the path, to realize the deepest truths, and then to be able to help others along the way. So and then compassion for ourselves, compassion for others. So these three, before we launch into these prayers, so they have meaning for us, we want to reflect on some healthy sense of dread, that we don't want the consequences of a crazy mind. We don't want that. And then confidence in our own, the Buddhas, but our own Buddha nature, our own Buddha potential, our ability to realize those teachings, and for us to be, authentic, Sangha, so refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and then compassion, again, for ourselves and others. So again, it's important to go over these things and realize what we're doing, so we're just not prattling, just saying these words and not really connecting with something deeper. So let's do it now. Can barely see.
Oh, yeah, if you're in person, it's on page 34.
My glasses are... Yep. All right. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I'll do the four measurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering and may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. And a short mandala offering. So, this ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. Imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kamne Yatayami. All right, so let's take a couple of minutes to do a breathing mindfulness of the breath practice, whatever flavor that looks like to you. Whatever it's going to take to have your mind and sort of to bring it to one point without being distracted. So that could be counting to 10. It could be the 9-round breathing. It could just be sitting and watching the breath. So the motivation for practicing in this lineage, the Mahayana lineage, is the motivation that we need to cultivate is this altruistic intention to become enlightened based on love and compassion. And so those words, it's so easy to say those words, but what is does that touch, does that create any, does that move you? Does that touch your heart? And usually doesn't, just to say the words. You have to think about what it means. And so taking just a moment to reflect on how we can without taking too much time, develop some taste for bodhicitta, this awakening mind. So whenever we cultivate compassion, universal compassion, not just for those that are near and dear, but for all living beings, we have to start out with something we call equanimity, which is seeing, frequently we imagine a stranger who we might feel indifference toward, usually we do, and then the people that we feel attachment toward, that we label friends, and then the people that we feel aversion toward, so-called enemies. We imagine these 3 classes of beings and how changeable they are, and how everyone wants to be happy, does not want to suffer. And if you're creatively align with the notion of past and future lifetimes, but they've all been our family in past lifetimes and will again in future lifetimes. So there's no justification for clinging to the friends, because that could change, or feeling indifferent toward the stranger, or aversion toward the enemy. These are all changeable labels that are not inherently existent. So we start out with that mind of equanimity, and then we can remind ourselves that everyone, all living beings, want to be happy, and no one wants to suffer. I mean, that's right down to the tiniest little insect that we can imagine, to all the way up to, well, us in particular. We want everyone in this room, something we know very intimate about the faceless people in the elevators and the people driving in front of us and behind us, and just everybody. And the majority of people are strangers, right? But everybody wants the same thing. I want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. That motivates everything we do 24/7. So we're all equal in wanting happiness and not wanting to suffer. We're all equal in this really important way. And we reflect on the false of self-cherishing selfishness, which is kind of hard to hear sometimes, but that's, we think, well, I've got to take care of number one. Who's going to take care of me? I'm the most important one. I mean, that's our instinct. And yet, Buddhism's saying that we project a false sense of I, we cling to it, and then all of our delusions, greed, hatred, ignorance, pride, jealousy, everything, all the negative mind states, which create the negative karma, which causes suffering, all of that has been motivated by self-cherishing selfishness. The real demon, the real devil, if you want to use that kind of analogy, for the cause of all the misery from beginningless time until now is one thing, self-cherishing selfishness. And it dwells right within our hearts, is our selfish, self-centered mind. It thinks I am the most important one. Causes all the problems. And we have to at least be open to that. Investigate, see if it's true. See if when you're having problems, how prominent the selfish mind is. And then the attitude of cherishing others is the cause of all happiness. Cherishing others is the cause of all happiness. Again, check it out. If we cherish others, we don't kill them, we don't steal from them. Our sexual relationships are authentic, or we don't cheat on people, we don't lie and deceive people, we don't badmouth and slander them, speak harshly and disturb their mind and waste their time with frivolous talk. So those are just the actions of body and speech, and then all the mental negativity, such as greed, hatred, and ignorance, and so on. All these things are, if we cherish others, we don't do them. If we cherish others, we practice their opposites. Instead of killing, we save lives. Instead of stealing, we practice generosity, and so on. So we can see cherishing others is our greatest ally. And then the next move is to exchange self-cherishing for cherishing others, so that our thoughts are always focused outward toward others. How can I help? What can I do? As much as I can, Amiyashi used to say this, as much as I can, I dedicate my life to others. We're focusing out. So we exchange selfish self-cherishing for the attitude that cherishes others. And then we can come to this conclusion. Again, this is almost an outrageous statement, but it's the attitude behind it that's so important. And it's cultivated on genuine love and compassion, not sentimentality or not some sort of megalomaniac, like I can do anything, but understanding that we have Buddha potential and our love and compassion for all sentient beings. We make this promise is that I will, I'm going to guide all living beings from their current state of confusion to supreme enlightenment by myself alone. This is the heroic sort of motivation of a bodhisattva, so-called spiritual warrior. These amazing beings who dedicate their lives absolutely 110% to benefiting others. So we aim for supreme enlightenment in order to help others. And we realize, who can do that? Who could actually help others in all the different ways? Everybody's different. We all have different predispositions. Who could actually do that? I certainly can't do it. I can't even, I still, lots of problems. Lots of problems have happened and lots of problems to face coming up that I'm not ready for. The only being that could do that would be somebody who had realized their full Buddha potential. We all have some compassion, but realizing it completely. We all have some wisdom, but realizing it fully. We all have some power, but have that perfected. And we all have this thing called skillful means, which is knowing exactly what to do and say to benefit others in whatever way fits their unique predisposition. That's a description of a Buddha, of an enlightened being. So if we want to fulfill the supreme wish, the only way to accomplish that is to become a Buddha. The only way to become a Buddha is to practice the path. We practice renunciation, bodhicitta, emptiness, generation and completion stage of Tantra. We find a qualified teacher and we put our whole heart and mind into transforming our lives to become really a servant, to be in service to others. That's the greatest goal. So think about that. Like our aim is to achieve our full Buddha potentials, to perfect these, eliminate our faults, help others. And then we have that becomes our motivation, I'm going to say motivation / intention for listening to the teachings of Khyentse Rinpoche and any discussion that might follow, that this bodhicitta motive, it follows through the whole conversations, everything that it carries us, through this class and hopefully beyond. But it's crucial. Lama Yeshe used to say, if you're going to meditate for an hour, it's better to spend 59 minutes setting a proper motivation and meditating a minute. Because if we don't have the right motivation, we're just cultivating something different. It's not the causes for enlightenment, but it's something different. And what we want is supreme enlightenment for the benefit of others. So let that sink in. And part of the way we do that is to come to Kadampa Center, share our presence, our support, and our wisdom with one another. And we listen to these teachings with with this important attitude. You can relax concentration. Go ahead. We'll start.
So I'm going to start the video of Khyentse Rinpoche teaching on the 8 verses of thought transformation, which is on page 161 in the Gold Prayer Book. And if you are online, I did put the link to it in the chat. Oh wait, that's not what I meant to share. That's the text, not the recording. 161. And we are starting on stanza 5. We've gone through stanzas 1 through 4.
Nala Jenji Chado ke Sheka Laso Meribe, Chonka Range Lemada, Yaka Yela Mova Shuser, La Soso La Jenda Jigava, Chado Jenny. Chado Jenny, Tenisha, Don Gawan Nevala Sovatari, Ten Lodo Moton, Movo Chelasonayo, the Koro Lachine, Chonka de Ron Lene, Agota, Chonka Ronga Lematon, and it under the Motere Tandelo, Neshan. Nala Jenji Chado Ki said, Majanda Chick, so Benjo Yabo Yoke, young Chado Zoya, Yetela, Chado Zoya, Yorava, Chado Zonella, and a Sheshe Ton Damada Chela, Yena Yong, and a Tesla Leja Yagamares, Kahajana Yagares.
So now stand the number. Next one, please.
5. When out of envy, others mistreat me with abuse, insults, or the like, I shall accept defeat and offer the victory to others.
So here, like jealousy could occur based on wealth, based on education, because you are so educated that somebody just get jealous. Maybe you have so much wealth and somebody is quite jealous. Whenever this kind of situation occur, for sake of your happiness, the best is not to respond. Best is not to respond.
Teodang also Laja Chamber and Paroboti Leja in a young Paroboti tingle Nemeja and Tichi Lagre, Pachi, Tajura, Jareja Sate, Leno, or Tele Shajana, and Tanda Soso, Jura Soso, Yorete, Tena on Yapore, or Yamalone, pay Yapo or else.
Yeah, you may like, if you don't respond, you may feel like, oh, it's not fair, or there are many different words that you use, not fair. But ultimately, it's better because you say something, other person will say something, then you say something, then it goes back and forth, eventually you get into fight, and nobody wins. So temporarily, you feel like, oh, you are losing, but ultimately you are gaining, not responding, not responding.
네, 그러고谢谢도야 되면 로마谢谢동차로 봐. 다 조조조조가 될 계적 가제线을 계적 모야 되래 뭐도谢谢도야 되면 로야 말에谢谢동차로 민모모 지기지로谢谢동화이나 동차로 봐. 되면 로고 문두가 될 팔레 자기는 계적 모른 로야 뭐도 남의谢谢도야 되면 로고 문두가 아스. 대도 준세 남의谢谢도야 되면 로고 매아이다 다 팔레 맞잖아 야그레스.
So always need to, this kind of incident always need to analyze thoroughly. So if you're hoping whatever has been said to you, if you're hoping that to go away, that's probably not going to happen. It's already said it. Then if you say something back, that's not going to be whatever or he or she said it, it's already been said. If you're hoping that to disappear, that's not going to happen, regardless whether you respond or not respond. So if there's a hope, so then better not to say anything.
Yeah, pena pate dawa trapega. 로봇이 소소를 접하고 뭘 지슈소나 소소 나사 동차로봐. 그봐. 연주 거로를 파치 슈게는 소소가 나사데 맨로 누게 따체세세. 나사데 맨로 누나 연은 네가 여 파치 슈나 네가 여러 봐. 나사데 맨로 문두가 나사 먼저 봐마자 바로 보살라 나사 동은두가. 동은두가. 제이다 소소가 나사데 맨로 문두는 바로 보텔 렌데를 파슈게야 요 말에서.
So some texts so let's say if somebody hits you with a stick, do cause physical pain, wherever which part of the body the person hits. So the pain is you already experience the pain because somebody hit you with a stick. So then you could hit other person with a stick, but the pain is already happened. It's not going to go away. You already experience the pain. So the meaning here need to analyze very thoroughly what are you hope to achieve. Pain that other person caused in your physical body is you already experience that pain, normally regardless whether you respond with a stick with or not. That pain is you already experience. That pain is already done. So they're hitting somebody else with the stick. So that's not going to remove your pain. Pain has already happened. So that's why total analysis is needed before we respond.
다 되게 된다대 주 셈을 샤야 되 개체 모래 바로 보 소소로 라마라 손나 텔레레 맞아봐 저봐 소소 중크데 야하데 바로 볼에 자자기는 개자 뉴사래 되게 네 사래서
Or like best way to end argument, fight, whatever. If you offer the victory for others, that's the best way to end. Otherwise, it will never end. So keeping all this in mind, so then, so practice the practice and keep whatever we learn here, keep that in mind.
나라 제제 차도게 셰거라서 머리베 종가 롱게 렘도 자가젤람 뭐 아, 공라 다게 배다베 레와체와 가시게 현대 머리 내세나요 신예 돈바 다와 쇼선데서 할 레베 개체 모래 소소소소 그러봐 공사 설레이나 텔레파
Yeah, let's just pause it just for a second. And usually this is, people, this verse causes a little bit of a firestorm, if people think about it. So I've got down here, anyway, it says, whenever others, due to their jealousy, revile and treat me in other unjust ways, may I accept this defeat and offer the victory to others. So interestingly, in this little textbook that was created from the teachings His Holiness gave, a few decades ago in Washington, it said the key verse in the 8 verses of training the mind is this. So he didn't spend a lot of time on it, but this is the key verse. Whenever others, due to their jealousy, revile and treat me in other unjust ways, may I accept the defeat myself and offer the victory to others. Anybody got a problem with that? I mean, really, that is not the American way. That's not how we do stuff here. We don't offer the victory to others. It said, this verse focuses on the need to eliminate the excessive competitiveness and ill-conceived ideas of prestige and face that continue to bedevil human relationships even today. And it goes on to say, this is just real quick. There's not a lot, His Holiness didn't say much about this verse, even though this is, like I said to be the key verse in the whole teachings. Normally, from a conventional legal point of view, if certain allegations were made against someone unjustly with no grounds of basis, one would feel justified in reacting with anger and a sense of injustice. However, for the practitioner, it is recommended that you do not react this way, especially if the consequence of the unjust treatment is that you alone and no other sentient beings are hurt. A true practitioner is encouraged to accept defeat and offer victory so that one doesn't react in a negative way with outrage and anger. So again, I mean, it all boils down to the teachings on selflessness and emptiness. I mean, our egocentric, self-cherishing attitude has a big problem when people treat us in unjust ways, right? I mean, there's no doubt. And we, how dare him say that to me or do that to me or whatever. I mean, it's just completely antithetical to our instinctive way of being and thinking to offer the victory to others. But it's, again, these are the mind training techniques. And some things we're not ready for. Some of this, like I said, all of this is like medicine. The 8 verses, each verse is like some medication that's an antidote to self-centeredness and our biggest, the cause of all of our problems. And so maybe this is too strong a medicine for us right now, but just to be open to it, to be, set it aside, don't throw it away, but just sit with it and see, the opportunity. I think His Holiness also made the distinction that if somebody's treating you, just you, okay, not a whole group of people, right, but just you, with in an unjust way or bad mouthing you or something, and you're the only person that's harmed by that we should practice accepting the defeat, giving others the victory. But I've also heard him say in this commentary that, in a situation where, a lot more harm could come. For example, you can imagine, we've seen people like Adolf Hitler and you can probably fill in a lot more names of people over the course of, so many years that have, that needed to be stopped because, offering them the victory and accepting the defeat would not be skillful. Would have been skillful to stop that person before they killed millions and millions of people. So there's, again, Buddhism, particularly as practicing the Bodhisattva path, we do have permission. If we use our wisdom and our compassion, and we have some clairvoyance, and we understand that our actions, we can take a very fierce, very strong position. We can, we can do whatever we need to do to stop a situation like that. There are lots of examples in the teachings, but we don't have all day. So go ahead. Thank you. Oh, by the way, any comment or question? This is a good one because it's said to be the most important stanza in the whole thing. In fact, it went on to say that it said the great master Chikawa had encountered and memorized 8 verses of mind training and was puzzled with this particular verse, which enshrines the most perfect example of merging self with the other. He went all over Tibet trying to get somebody to explain this verse to him because it was so, hard. So can you imagine if it was hard for him, how it's going to be difficult for us? Yeah.
Supposing someone is slandering me, only me, but that slander might make me lose my job or might make my spouse believe that I wasn't faithful, or then accepting defeat is causing a ripple effect to other people around me.
Oh.
Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's, I didn't say this was easy. I'll tell you a quick story. This blew my mind. I read this recently. Somebody asked Lama Yeshe one time, he said, if somebody comes in with a gun and they're going to shoot him, and he has a gun, he has access to a weapon himself, to kill this person who's wants to shoot him. He said, what would you do? And he said, I'd let him shoot me. That's pretty wild. You know, I mean, there's stories of the Buddha when he was a bodhisattva, where he gave his life up to the tigress and her, you know, this starving tigress. She had 4 or 5 cubs. Is that what you call a baby tiger? Yeah. And he gave his body to this tigress to feed her so she could continue to feed her kids. Well, we're not ready there. I'm guessing we're not ready to make that kind of sacrifice, but, you know, that is totally antithetical to any sort of egocentric perspective. Yeah.
When somebody does wrong toward you, you know, lying or whatever, if you can stop and think about how what they're doing is motivated by some kind of anger or jealousy or some negative emotion inside themselves. And that might help you then to say, gosh, this person is hurting or having a problem. And it can help you to at least maybe not react or not react as strongly at worst. And at best, maybe it can help you to deal with the situation better if you understand what motivated that person to do that action towards you. You might be able to, with compassion, ask them about the problem, you know, depending on the situation and who it is. And so it might help to resolve the problem if you can stop and think of it in that way.
Yeah, good point, Elise. You know, I've heard people say the ego. What does the ego want? Well, of course, we're all addicted to deliciousness, right? So we want pleasure, gain, fame, and praise. Those are the 4. When we talk about the 8 worldly concerns, we always talk about the things that are delicious that we want, but the list goes on and on. We all want only what's good and fun and delicious and enjoyable and makes us feel good. And we, by the same token, we dread, we fear, we feel, we do not want pain, loss, disgrace, and blame, all the flip side of those things. And it's all predicated on ego. I want this, but I don't want that. And our lives are mixed, isn't it? Even in the course of a day, we get what we want, then we don't get what we want. We're happy, and then we suffer. Our mind is agitated. And we get, then we get to some neutral space, but there's never a neutral space because we're always dissatisfied. We always want this and want to avoid this. And so our whole lives are spent on this roller coaster of completely, I guess you could say, predicated or created by our self-cherishing, selfish mind. So, these verses are things that we can consider and practice to help us weaken the force of our biggest enemy, which is self-cherishing selfishness. Anything else?
I have something, Don.
Yeah.
Right here. So to kind of follow what Elise was saying, I was thinking also that not only to try to understand where the other person is coming from and that they must be either angry or hurting or something, but also they're creating their own negative karma by lying or killing or whatever. So if you are coming from a place to try to stop that person from creating negative karma for themselves, that can be something also that motivates that. But I guess you have to have the right wisdom to know which action will be stopping that negative karma correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, offering the victory to others, that line is going to be something to think about for a lifetime. Okay, moving along here. Go ahead.
roba shabo se che peta le roba shabo se che ne ane ni ngal tane duputa ne che ga mare so so rewa che wa tane ngashi ga ane so lo tana te roba ne ba she wala so ba tane ale tumo te rido sar konza sele yina so ga 패다네 저등 성세도 다 가린 거는 패다 그봐 패셔라다 망고바나 딩알 아니 내 누보산에 제가 말해서서 그래와 채왔더니 요나스
So, for example, there's somebody there you like did so much for that person, finance-wise, knowledge-wise, whatever. Like you provided so much for that person, then you have high hope for that person on that person.
대원 알아서 강가를 용세 그래다. 아래와 채사더니 파 로바 체네스 날 두보탄에 제가 말해서서 그래와 채와 사더니 소 알아서 강가를 요 아래서.
Yeah, we all have that kind of incident or issues that you did so much for somebody, so that you have high hope. So then eventually that person may turn against you. There's possible risk for all of us, not just few person.
뒤가 다 따버리세 세면대 야포 내가 말하고 너마치를 걸어로 세면 너도 남아라서 셴네. 너도 남아라서 셴네. tani chene la gwisa me soza tana sozo la manda keja tani la shunas hagotarwa la sona tengo la control loya yo amares hagoda control loya yo amares kana shenye tomba tawa cho zeba gonsa pa zeba gogar ko pa ta zele ta ko garsa garta pa pe tani sita sara tanda ko pe ta be to le pembe le me ba o chi ne ba shi go ba o te ita te le tani zeba goya le zeba o zeba gombe gewishi zeba teme gewishi nyen oji ta gore seres.
So you may get shocked that person will say something like that because you've been treated that person so well. All of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, that person is like turning against you and criticizing you. And when that happens, so the best mindset that one should have is seeing that person as the best teacher, teaching you or giving you opportunity to practice patience.
그 이따당 알아서 다 실제 단달래 요 말에 맞아 다 되는 노래 되는 용거래 대마 알레말레 맛이 단다 데려와 요래 오 테니스를 쇠바 고세 쇠바 생각들 내발라 치면요비 쇠바 누가 당래 주 쇠바 칠랑에 세주 쇠바선에 써요 다 단다 데려 하고 들어봐 내발라 치면요비 쇠바 칠 내바시나요 텔레 내발라 치면요비 쇠바 누가 당래 주 쇠바 니가 고초고 요래서 텔
Generally speaking, the practice of patience can be divided into three, there are three types of patience. The patience that is able to tolerate, like criticism, looking down, calling your name, and then the patience that accepting hardship, patient that accepting hardship. Then there's another patience that when you engage in the spiritual practice, meditation, there will be some difficulty, physical, mental difficulty, but you are bearing the hardship for the greater result. So here, when that person turns against you, there's two different types of patience you can practice. For accepting difficulties, then not treating that criticism so blowing is out of proportion, like projecting. There's two types of patience. Maybe you can look. There's three types of patience.
세상 다 텔로 컨트롤로가 쟤는 다 내말 컨트롤로 패다세 때 강을로는 돌아를 쇼사레스.
If you get angry with that person, then everything you have done, like year after year, this all then it's basically become nothing. So not the best choice to get angry, but the patience is a better choice.
당에 저로서 로지 추주시해요.
I'm going to tell you short stories.
아니 내 말에 당아 야가를 요델로 처음으로 와이스. 처음으로 요델로 그래서 개와 가르쳐 개조 가르쳐거나 세바데 뇽도 로고는 게 될라야리 콜로서 그러봐 저로서 개조 가르쳐가 예나나 레가 가르쳐가 예나나 개와 예나나 레가 가르쳐거나 세바데 뇽도 로야데 셔라 개체 못이스
Any like positive deed we try to engage. So we always should have patience, should go with all our practice. Patience should go with all our practice. Otherwise, there's risk all the time. There's risks. Practice of patience should go with us all the time. No, meaning like whenever you do positive things, the patience needs to be there with you.
그래서 다다 녀마치랑아 야가 요래를 토는로는 소소로 로야보 셔야레스 그러봐 노자 전에면은 로야보 셔는 뭔가 노래를 야가 빼 줘버들 신도 빼 줘버신도 니제 단디 칼라 야가지 녀마치라서 말에 아 손에 네코 사혼을 쳐야 예스
So one time, like when I was in India, I went to the market in town. So then I saw this beggar, looks like so poor. So then the positive mindset occurred inside me. So then I thought maybe I should treat that person or maybe take it to a restaurant or maybe offer some meals.
아니 너 사고는 너 내가 당연히 칼라산으로 보러 칼라사 네 나한테 자가 칼라시라 사통에 카사보 시라 사통에 카사서 되는 게 그 나를 자케쇼셀라이 자케쇼라들 방고티고 내가 자투이 사갈
So then we are having meals and we are having lunch or food in the restaurants. So Indian food is kind of spicy. So that time I'm not able to eat spicy food. So then I ordered sweet tea because food is quite spicy. So beggar say, I also want tea too.
Then 야세는 코를 자테테이
Then I say, okay, of course. Then I also ordered tea for him.
롤때 마데와 슈테 당내 초로서로 시아바노 영화로 텔로트 바꿔 있어.
Yes. Then I feel like a little bit uneasy in my mind. All offer lunch now. I'm drinking tea now. He wants the same thing. Makes a little bit uneasy, but I managed to kind of like stop that thought.
전에 때는 자테 투타를 하키 타마테가 있어. 콜 타만 요쇼세근데스.
So after the tea is done, meal is done, then he asked Rinpoche, I want to smoke. Please buy me a cigarette.
땡알 셀 가로치레 소스. 야 페르바스 칼라데테 다나 자데테 다 타마서 테쇼세. 말해봐 소소 때제 테슈세 이나 당에 테 파과네. 형 고나넬 다 비리센 치어 자가 비리센. 어떠니 시뇽네 콜테 있어.
Then I felt like more uneasy because now I said, lunch has been offered, tea has been offered, now he wants me to buy the cigarette. It's not really, it's like here in the West, you're fancy. There's like kobiri, there's like, the poor people usually smoke that. So it's outside, there's a small convenience store. Then I went there, I bought one of those and give it to him.
근데 그거 때때도 빼래셔도 다 때지 되는 게 때도 렌드 세가사를 소 레셔도 근데 저거 빼래셔 다 때지 되는 단디가 때도 되지 라사를 손이 되는가 야로는 남아서 되는 등할 로는 용자 있어.
Then I realized the what do you call this, like a short that with the color, in India to pretty much. So Rinpoche realized that what he's wearing is very much wear out. It's even like, so you can see the skin, some part here. So Rinpoche just thought, okay, maybe I should now say goodbye. Otherwise, he may going to ask me to buy new shirt. Then Rinpoche told him like, Namaste. There's a way to greet in India. So then Rinpoche said, Namaste. Then Rinpoche slowly left before he asked.
네, 나도 배와 관계가 요매 뭐지 나도 파이는 뒤땡에 될 싫어서 맞대 따버리시 될 라니 이거 말했으니 되네 라 그랬어.
Well, in my hometown, usually that people give advice. If somebody's giving you, you shouldn't ask more. You shouldn't ask more. If somebody's giving to you, you should not ask more. That's not a nice thing to do. In my hometown, back in Tibet, usually elder the advice.
내가 되네 안도네 또 이내 안도네 나도 손으로 아지 빼말아래 칼라시 때자리라 네나 장아모 마트를 카차로 카차이다 장아모 되로 걸어 장아모 거세 자대대다는 걸 담아거세 배 말아래서 되는 정juk 선호도네 안로돼 있으나.
So then there was that uneasy thought follow Rinpoche like quite a distance, like going in the market, says, keep thinking. Like the reason I order tea because this food is so spicy, I cannot eat. So trying to eliminate my like burning sensation, I order the tea. So then he wants the tea. Then this thought kind of recycling, like follows Rinpoche like quite, even though Rinpoche left the beggar there, my thought is still like recycling all the events now.
telega garoje 선호도 가로 선호된다지 배래나 선호도디. 아니 주경 가로 선호도들 아제다. 쟁에들 로는 맞아 마쟁을 로마 가까이요 말아. 단델을 지로는 네 제사에서는 로고요. 고로 라와시 자고요. 그때는 마쟁을 로나 말로나 라야요 말아. 딱히 제사에서는 로와래 니제 커야 말아 고로 소소이나 쟁에들 로고 마쟁에들 로고 말아. 딱히 제거에서는 로와래 니제 가와요나 손에 메테 제소스.
So then after a little while, then Rinpoche managed to generate some kind of compassion because Rinpoche keep thinking this thought is kind of like cycling, going round and round. Then Rinpoche said, of course, no beggar will only beg for someone who's going to give. Beggar will not go to somebody who will not give, they can tell. They only beg somebody's giving them, so probably they will ask more. So Rinpoche thought again, well, that person has right to ask. So that person only asks somebody that looks like somebody's giving. That person's beggar is not going to usually go for somebody who doesn't give. Beggar always go to somebody who gives. So the Rinpoche thought, oh no, I should not blame him because that he sees me, that somebody I give. So that's why he asks one after another. So then Rinpoche managed to generate, compassion towards that person. Took a while.
이제 다 코카요 나서 내 야보치도 뇨통을 다 대투스 뇨저게 소소. 야보치도 뇨통을 배셔셔요 뭐다. 다저지 뇨장 근데서 등에 고체 안 로이 전체는 예 마소스.
Then finally the thought I could buy new shirt for him. Finally took long time. So the Rinpoche thought maybe I can buy not the best one, but something better than what he's wearing. So then Rinpoche went to look for him, never found the beggar.
대다 다 데리소니는 소소야 쪼버셔요 말에. 그러봐. 다 소소 쪼버 메레 니제 쪼버서 니제 손을 배셔 대제 큰인 쟤는 로고요스.
So nowadays, it's not like before, like before. There's nothing to give. So now in the position that can give something. So then, whenever I go, I always do give. I always give wherever I go. Before there's nothing to give. So now in the position that I can give something, so I give.
나한테 저로서 가디 이나요. 쇠와세는 나한테 야보치 용이 채도 저로서 내는 용량 되다 사서 제출해야 있어.
So now my point of my story here is the practice of patience needs to go with all our practice, all our positive deeds. There's always risks. That's the point of my story.
Excuse me. So let me read that verse again. So when someone whom I've helped and in whom I have placed great hope harms me with great injustice, may I see that one as a sacred friend. That one's easy, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a quintessential cognitive behavioral therapy example, isn't it? Where you have to reframe the situation. Somebody who's done you wrong, and you want to react and you get angry, but you go, wait a minute. This person's like a sacred teacher. They're teaching me. What are they teaching me? Well, number one, they're giving me an opportunity to practice patience, because friends don't do that, correct? They give us And without the perfection of patience, that's one of the 6 perfections. Without that, there are no bodhisattvas and there are no Buddhas. So we need these people that push our buttons and aggravate us and do us wrong, literally. That's their ticket to enlightenment. And then again, we talked about how anything that happens to us, this is hard to swallow, but it's a good, I think it's a good, a healthy way to approach this, is that we are ultimately accountable for our experience. We're ultimately accountable for not only our experience, but everything that happens to us. That's one of the 3rd laws of karma, is you cannot experience a result without creating the cause, which sounds harsh because there are things that happen to us that we can't put together. Like, I didn't do anything in this life to deserve this. But it's also a powerful notion in that we are not only accountable or responsible for our lives, but we can shape the future. We can shape our minds into as Lama Zopa said, into anything we want, into becoming a bodhisattva and even a Buddha. So, being not reacting and accepting defeat. Just one quick thing here this is from His Holiness, and this goes back to the previous one too. He says, one should acknowledge the value of that person as a rare, precious teacher instead of reacting with anger and hostility. Then he goes on to say, this is not to suggest that a true practitioner should simply yield to whatever harm or injustice is being inflicted upon him or her. In fact, according to the precepts of the Bodhisattva, one should respond to injustice with a strong countermeasure, especially if there is any danger that the perpetrator of the crime is going to continue negative actions in the future, or if other sentient beings are adversely affected. What is required is sensitivity to context. If a particular injustice happens and brings no wider consequences to bear upon either the perpetrator of the crime or upon other sentient beings, then perhaps you should let it pass. So very similar to the last one. Okay. Any comments? Yeah.
I think that a common situation that this verse might also apply to is when we think we're benefiting somebody else, we think we know what's good for them, and we're actually wrong, so they rebel because that's not what they really want or need. So it's our own arrogance can be causing a situation like this. So having them say, no, that's not really what I want to do. I don't want to be an engineer. I want to be an artist or whatever it is. I don't want you to buy your style of clothes for me. I've got my own different style. We need to listen to them and calm our own arrogance.
Right. Good point.
Or lack of wisdom.
Anybody out there in Zoom land? Any questions? Okay. All right. Go ahead. Let's do the next verse.
We're out of time.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Well,
Before prayers, I think Donna has something.
So just a couple of quick words. First of all, if you are enjoying this teaching that Khyentse Rinpoche has given on this text, my director is telling me to go over to the center of the room. If you're enjoying this teaching, he will be teaching again on this same text this coming Friday at Seichen Ling in San Francisco, which is the FPMT Center in San Francisco. So you can find, if you want to see that again, you can see that on Zoom. This Friday evening, it's going to be starting at 9 o'clock our time. Second thing that I want to talk about is I would like to congratulate Linda on her appointment by Lama Zopa Rinpoche as co-spiritual program coordinator at Kadampa Center. So we really welcome your addition to the team in this role. And then the last thing to talk about is I want us to take a moment and just look around the room here. And if you're on Zoom, just kind of look at the screen and think a little bit about what you see in this room and what you've been hearing for the last hour and participating in. Just think about that for a minute. And then I'll tell you what I see. So when I look at all the sacred objects here on the altar, I see not only all these holy beings, but I see all the people who helped to fill the Lama Atisha statue and the Tara statues. And I wasn't here when we got the Buddha statue and the Kala Chakra, and all the people who contributed that. I see Patrick McGinnity, who helped install all these cabinets that are the base for the altar. I see Lee Ventura, who donated these beautiful cork floors. I see all these people. Without you being here today, there'd be no reason for all of us to be here. There'd be no reason for there to be teachings without students who are wishing for and desiring these teachings and desiring to know how to put all of this into practice in our lives. Kadampa Center is a manifestation of that. It's a manifestation of us, our wish to learn the Dharma. It's a manifestation of the teacher's desire to teach the Dharma and to have students. And so that's, and one way that we help keeping that physical manifestation going is in a very mundane practice of offering financial support to the center. So we're in the middle of our annual appeal season right now. I think you should be getting a letter in your mailboxes in the next couple of weeks. And if you want to participate in the annual appeal, you can just go to our website on the homepage. The little banners that come across, there's a pretty little green banner that says annual appeal. And if you click on that, you'll learn how to offer our support. So thank you very much.
And one more announcement. Outreach here at Kadampa Center is doing a clean and brand new in the package drive for socks and underwear, and really any size. And if you're here in the Gampa now, you may have noticed a black bin just outside the front door with a red top. So anytime, the Kadampa Center doesn't have to be open. Anytime, if you're driving by and you've been to Target or anywhere, you can just drop your clean in the package socks and underwear. Again, boys, girls, men, women, any size is needed. And this is part of, Kadampa Center is partnering with a nonprofit organization called Note in the Pocket. And this will be going on through February, so there's plenty of time. All right, and now we'll do our closing prayers. If you're here in person, it's on page 32.
Before we close it, I want to just say one thing. Thank you, Donna, for those helpful words, and really talking about what an amazing opportunity here we are in Raleigh, North Carolina, having a place to practice Dharma, and great spiritual teachers like Gelik Rinpoche. Geshe Gelik. But anyway, I look back on this article, and I got the book. But anyway, this came out of the Wall Street Journal last week, and it's very relevant to what we're talking about today and the Dharma in general. It's based on 85 years of the study's been going on for 85 years, and it says, in its 85 years of counting, the Harvard study on adult development has found that personal connections are the most important factor for long-term health and happiness. So if, what we're talking about here is personal connections, isn't it? These are, the teachings are really about connecting with others. We get enlightened and dependence upon others, and we need others. And that's why a strong Sangha a community of people who can work together to keep the Dharma alive, but it also is in our best interest to have a strong spiritual community for the short and long run. So that's just something to think about. So where are we now?
We'll do the closing prayers, page 32 of the Gold Prayer Book.
All right. We'll do the ones at the top of the page first. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more because of the merits of taking ordination. Whoops, we don't need that. We'll do the next part. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering
By virtue of my merit, may no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be stored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you, everyone.
Linda, thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Don. It's really nice.